Hiyo le mini bekathi xelwa ma. Hiyo le mini bekathi xelwa ma. Ibhaliwe khona ezincwadini ma. Makesi thamathi isixhobo zemfundo sibhinqele phezulu hey siqonde phambili sithi vumani bo ingomso lethu vumani liqaqambile ndiqiniseke sithi vumani bo ingomso lethu vumani liqaqambile ndiqiniseke sithi vumani bo ingomso lethu vumani liqaqambile ndiqiniseke. If you pretend to be South Africans, to be nice, is there anybody who wants to just pretend with me? Even if it's just 10 of you just pretending there. Ingomso lethu liqaqambile ndiqinisekile. Ingomso lethu mandinive qaqambile ndiqinisekile. Ingomso lethu liqaqambile ndiqinisekile. Ingomso lethu liqaqambile ndiqinisekile. Sithi vumani bo ngomso lethu vumani qaqambile ndiqiniseke. Sithi vumani bo sithi vumani bo ndiqiniseke. Sithi vumani bo sithi vumani bo qaqambile 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 ndiqiniseke. Sithi vumani bo sithi vumani bo ndiqiniseke. Sithi vumani bo sithi vumani bo ndiqinisekile. Sanibonani molweni. Molweni ekhaya ndiyabhotisa ama-Afrika amahle. For those who are currently disadvantaged, I'm going to translate. For those who are currently disadvantaged, I'm going to translate what I was singing about. I was saying the day has finally arrived. It has been written in the books that a day like this would arrive. And what date is it? What month is it? What year is it? The 19th of September, 2018. That's the day that was planned a long time ago, even before the researchers were born, that a day like this would arrive. And because it has finally arrived, we've got to lift up our skirts, tighten our belts, get ready to do what? Focus more on education. Thabathi isixhobo zemfundo jonge phambili. Ndaphinde ndathi ingomso lethu liqaqambile. Our future is bright. If we give all of ourselves into what we have to do, and not do a little bit or do something because other people are watching. You do it because you have to do it. If you're in Ndebele, you say, "Uyidela mathambo." How do you say that in English? Throw yourself in, bones and all. Throw yourself in, bones and all. A day like this wouldn't have arrived if the researchers didn't throw themselves, bones and all, into this work that made this special evening to be. Ladies and gentlemen, ndingunokugcina ngokamhlophe mna. Umhlophe uzindela uthumbeza uphuthaza abaphuthaza izulu abanye belesaba ontombi ezenda onyezi ezabafokazana zenda ngomnyama Ndizalwa ngubani na? Ngumatshesi. Umkhonto obomvu futhi olufakade. Ewe. Kumandi xa ndilapha ndiyavuya xa ndinani. I'm grateful to be with you. I'd like to welcome Professor Andrew Leicht, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Research and Engagement. Put your hands together. Yes. Sizomane sibamkela ngabanye kodwa make simamkele uProfessor ungqondo.
Thank you very much indeed, Program Director Dr. Mhlope. I really appreciated that, and as you said, our future is bright. Thank you. I'm not so sure if we do have any representatives from the National Lotteries Commission here. Okay, in their absence, they are the funders of what we are experiencing this evening and the culmination of this research project. So I'll say a bit about that in a moment. But let me greet especially our Executive Dean of the Faculty of Arts at our university, Nelson Mandela University, Professor Rose Boswell. The faculty of the university, I've seen various faculty members and other staff present this evening. The project managers, senior researchers and the research team, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, I greet you all. I was called upon to have the pleasant duty of fulfilling two roles this evening. First of all, welcoming you and opening this important event, but also secondly, formally launching the Moments in Time book series and exhibition. This is, of course, 2018. It's the 19th of September, as we've been reminded. The day has come. Our future is bright. And this year is an important one in South African history, as we celebrate 100 years of one of the world's most revered leaders, Nelson Mandela. The Mandela centenary years, it has become known, will see heightened efforts to mark the life, the times, the legacy of a man who dedicated his life in service to people, our people, particularly the vulnerable and marginalized. This centenary year also marks, in fact, the first anniversary of the Nelson Mandela University name. Following our official launch, it was a year ago, on the 20th of July last year, where we became Nelson Mandela University. When we chose this name, it was for what it means for the transformation of education and how higher education contributes to the development of society. This year sees the university earnestly delving into the process of deepening, embedding, and enhancing the meaning of its name, and the identity in its core teaching, learning, its research, and its engagement, mandate, and ethos. And as we gather this evening, we recognize a group of fellow travelers and narrators from arts and humanities at our university who harnessed this global icon's name and values as they traverse the length and breadth of our province, the Eastern Cape, to uncover the rich histories, the stories of resilience, retain cultural practices, cherished sayings, and remembered songs into these 3 travel guides, which you have received a copy of. The guides are titled The Frontier Country and Amatola Mountain Escape, The Karoo Heartland, Bavians and Tsitsikamma, and The Wild Coast and Friendly N2. Together they showcase the rich diversity of tangible and intangible cultural heritage in the Eastern Cape province of South Africa. Given that we are living in a post-apartheid country, these 3 volumes necessarily speak of the overarching themes of liberation. Who were the Eastern Cape's major activists? Which locales speak to the nation's overcoming in the face of apartheid? Which little-known songs and sayings articulate the resilience and creativity of the people living there? When traveling across the southeastern coastal province of South Africa, one encounters diverse heritages, from legacies of wars spanning over 100 years to the pure beauty of the province in topography, nature, and culture. And if you've seen the photographs, you would have just got a glimpse of some of that this evening. The Eastern Cape offers a good example of the triumph and creativity of the human spirit in Africa. This province is home to some of the finest nature and game reserves on the continent. The sheer beauty of the region, with its 800 kilometers of pristine coastline, its various biomes, and its topography, makes it every nature lover's temptation. Traveling in this enticing landscape, visitors will come upon evidence of military exploits from the colonial era, alongside the legacy of racial segregation in the province's many townships. This project brings up very sharply the notion of heritage management in South Africa. In a rights-based environment and the freedom that liberation has ushered in, the ethics and care in handling intangible cultural heritage needs more attention in our country. The practices, the symbols, and the behaviors need to be safeguarded to preserve the integrity. Communities, groups, and where applicable, individuals like you and me, we should have the primary role of safeguarding our own intangible cultural heritage. Mutual respect and mutual appreciation of intangible cultural heritage should prevail in all interactions. Some of the heritage that we have as a province, in fact, goes much further back than what we are showcasing this evening. In fact, researchers in our African Center for Coastal Paleoscience are studying the rich histories of early modern humans with cognitive abilities dating back more than 160,000 years, and we find that along our coastline. These are found in various excavation sites. So our province is certainly rich in cultural heritage. So the focus of cultural heritage is really very important for our university. I'm happy to mention that our National Department of Arts and Culture has just awarded the university the contract to manage the South African Cultural Observatory for the next 5 years. In fact, it started the 1st of September. It was established by the university 3 years ago with a similar grant from Arts and Culture. The observatory will seek to map out and catalogue the rich cultural heritage in our nation. But back to this evening, the project that we are celebrating this evening was funded by the National Lotteries Commission. And they rely, of course, on funds from you and me, the proceeds of National Lottery. The intention of the Commission is to use the funding to make a difference in the lives of all South Africans, especially those that are vulnerable, and also to improve the sustainability of beneficiary organizations. Available funds are distributed to registered and qualifying non-profit organizations, and the university is one of them, in the various fields of charities, arts, culture, and national heritage, and sport and recreation. And by placing emphasis on the areas of greatest need and potential, the Commission contributes to South Africa's development. And so we are proud recipients of the grant from the Commission. Now, in closing, I'd like to really recognize a few people: Ryan Pillay, Ngama Mtinka, Jessica Thornton, and their 6 research interns, and also the 2 photographers who, and can I quote from our program director, bones and all, they went into this project and they share this evening the insider view of the heritage of our province. Of key interest to them was how people in the Eastern Cape experience the province's heritages, that is the colonial, natural, and the cultural heritages that is found in almost every town in our province. Exquisite, touching, emotional, inspirational, informative, tear-jerking, and amusing. These are just some of the descriptors that best capture what a journey through the cities and the small towns in this province can be. This project forms part of the ongoing effort by our Faculty of Arts to engage its graduate students and provide them with opportunities for learning via research. And it's so pleasing to note the number of our students who are present this evening. So I want to commend each one of you, and I truly welcome more collaborations of this nature. Colleagues, Program Director, ladies and gentlemen, we really appreciate your presence here this evening and your ongoing support for the work of the Faculty of Arts and the University. Please enjoy the evening. I thank you.
Thank you, sir. Siyabonga. Inkosi kakhulu. Uyazi intoni? Ukhona utata ongahlonitshwa ngokonwaba komphefumulo wami. Andazi bakwathini kodwa khona nomunye wesibini. If you look at the bookshelf, it's several bookshelves by now at my home. The backbone, the book that started all those thousands of books that I possess nowadays was a man called A.C. Jordan. I don't know if you know that name. Yeah, A.C. Jordan. And then another person who made me love the taste of his Xhosa language. This is the second person. Ngathi unganxiba ngapha ubhale A.C. Jordan. Ubhale igama lalo tata lona. Ngizawuthi nje kancinci nje in case you do know this poem, because many Xhosa speaking people know this poem, especially people who are a bit over their 40s and older. Ngonge ndini kaqubule gqitha. Wena ukade ukhonkotha nazizinja. Wena ukade unethwa nazimvula. Qala lamaqala, chawe lamachawe. Tiza dala kade bemkhwahlaza, thambo dala kade bemqonqotha. Chophe emanxebeni, xhaphaqela iqhwili. Nto ndini kufa ndini akufi. Whose poem is that? Kubani? Nizawufeyila bona nizawufeyila. Who wrote that poem? S.E.K. Mqhayi uzawupasa wena uzawupasa uthi. S.E.K. Mqhayi. S.E.K. Mqhayi. That's picture drawing language. Okay, I started with isiZulu and then I ended up in the Eastern Cape and I fell in love with isiXhosa language. That's why I carry both of them with the same amount of reverence. isiZulu and isiXhosa, because they are both my heritage. Now, when you see people like A.C. Jordan and S.E.K. Mqhayi not being spoken about on a daily basis, in the same breath as we say, Shakespeare, 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 and Shakespeare Festival, and Shakespeare that, anangxaki no Shakespeare, nkosi yami aphumle umntana abantu aphumle emangcwabeni. Kodwa ndincedeni hloniphani u-A.C. Jordan. Ndincedeni hloniphani S.E.K. Mqhayi. Are we together? Are we together? So this thing called oral history is something very, very precious to me. I see these books. When I was invited to come to this launch, something warmed up inside me. I thought, I wonder what I'm going to see. The first thing I saw, even before I touched the books, I saw the photographs. Beautiful beautiful photographs. They evoke something. They wake up memories. And then I also thought about this year, 2018, being the year, the centenary year of Tata Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela. And I thought they twinned him up with somebody. Kodwa alibizwa igama lakhe. This other somebody. I don't know if you've heard who this other somebody is. Do you have an idea? Also from the Eastern Cape. Umama uNontsikelelo Albertina Sisulu. We choose not to mention her name. I don't know why. In the media and in different spaces. So, something is wrong with the way we celebrate our history. I look at many women who contributed in history. So we've got to find a way as we move forward to honor both men and women in the way we do things. I realize that the research team, the family that put together this book are both men and women. So let's continue in that vein and not play. Sevan? Xa sithetha ngomama uSisulu, umbuzo kum uthi, kutheni nisoyika nje? Kutheni nisoyika ukulibisa igama lakhe? Kutheni nisoyika? Kutheni nisoyika ukulibisa igama lakhe? Kutheni nisoyika? Kutheni nisoyika ukulibisa igama lakhe? Kutheni nisoyika? Kutheni nisoyika ukulibisa igama lakhe? Mama Sisulu likhosikazi lethu. 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 Kutheni nisoyika? Kutheni nisoyika ukulibisa igama lakhe? Kutheni nisoyika? Kutheni nisoyika ukulibisa igama lakhe? I leave the question with you. Before ndisuke apha, I'm going to call Professor Rose Boswell, Executive Dean of Arts and Anthropologist, project owner as the chief investigator of this research and engagement, these volumes. She has put a lot of work into this. Let's have a few words from her. Professor Boswell. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to our program director. And I think this evening I would like to just perhaps make a little correction. Yes, I am the project owner, but a great deal of the ethnographic and field research that went into this project are also from the three main project leaders who have already been mentioned earlier on. Ongama Mtika, Ryan Pillay, Jessica Thornton, and also all the colleagues and students who are in the row behind them, Rebecca Hayter, and the other colleagues as well. So I'd like to extend a very warm thank you to all of them. So for many years, South Africans have been concerned to accurately portray the contribution of political activists to the anti-apartheid struggle. This is because the regime deliberately obscured these contributions and distorted them to suit the political agenda of the day. As a result, South Africans were misinformed, and the country's most significant political activists whom we know, such as Steve Biko, Chris Hani, Dulcie September, and Nelson Mandela himself, as well as lesser-known individuals, were publicly vilified. The contributions of these activists to the anti-apartheid struggle are slowly coming to light in films, memoirs, books, and stories. However, little is said about the role of culture and the maintenance of cultural practices in keeping South Africans free from the yoke of apartheid. In my view, and as an anthropologist who is the project owner of this project, there is good reason to perceive cultural practice as key to liberation. As we near South Africa's National Heritage Day, or as it is popularly known these days, National Braai Day, in cultural practice, there is a richness in language which our program director has already given us a taste of. The diversity of belief systems, the role of ritual practices, the creativity of body styling, And as I've argued elsewhere, the joy of eating culturally influenced food, some of which you have tasted this evening. In South Africa, such practices would have spanned across the already porous racial boundaries. The apartheid state could not and would not police such practices because in the first place, it was impossible to enforce or to force millions of people to be culturally homogeneous, to all act in the same way. No amount of ideological work could achieve that feat. And secondly, the apartheid logic depended on it. Apartheid's architects depended on and advanced the view of culture as bounded, unique, and primordial. And this gave credence to policies of separate development. But to return to the subject of the event this evening, by documenting the wide array of ICH, or intangible cultural heritage, that signals the cultural and social liberation of South Africans in the Eastern Cape, our project has sought to show that indeed many South Africans were freeing themselves from apartheid and were doing so through song, dance, music, oratory, and belief. In other words, through cultural resilience, people were in fact maintaining and managing intangible cultural heritage, often without the intervention of a state. Heritage, and therefore in particular liberation heritage, the underlying themes of the 3 volumes launched this evening are particularly apt as we are in Heritage Month in South Africa, and as already noted, we're about to celebrate Heritage Day. These 3 volumes indicate that the intangible and living cultures of South Africa definitely go beyond the braai. Our songs, epics, poems, stories, and rituals are key to a fuller expression of South Africa's diverse cultures in a time after apartheid. By recording and documenting the heritage of the Eastern Cape, the researchers on this project are contributing to better heritage management at both the state and civil society levels. And we hope that colleagues both at the National Heritage Commission and the National Lotteries Commission will take note of this. More than this, however, the work will advance social justice and social cohesion in the country. And the reason why I say this is because it documents the meaningful and previously undocumented rituals and life histories of many inhabitants in the Eastern Cape. And as I learned from the researchers in the many conversations that we had in our regular meetings, these stories were not just accounts that they documented for the purpose of the book, but they actually transformed the lives of the researchers. It's truly self-reflexive research, which is what we're hoping to promote in the Faculty of Arts. So our thinking is that it is by learning about one another that we truly understand each other better. At the institutional or university level, as already mentioned by our DVC research Professor Leach, the research project contributes to one of our newest institutional research themes, heritage, memory, identity, and culture. This research theme seeks to advance our knowledge of culture and identity in the South African context and beyond. It is therefore highly commendable that the Faculty of Arts has pursued this project with the National Lotteries Commission and that it has completed these 3 volumes on heritage expressions. The contribution will add to the repository of knowledge on heritage and memory at the university, and it will begin the work of the recently chosen institutional research theme. The 3 volumes are intended for a diversity of audiences. These are government, schools, and the tourism sector in the Eastern Cape. The work shows that academic work can in fact be translated into forms that are accessible to many. And in fact, the work presented here is deeply multidisciplinary, including the efforts of photographers, fine artists, poets, writers, and ethnographers. So we are showing that multidisciplinarity can actually occur within the arts and humanities and not necessarily between the arts and other disciplines across the university. We are grateful for the support of the National Lotteries Commission, for the support of Nelson Mandela University in giving us the space to do this work. And I, as the Dean of Arts, am particularly grateful to colleagues and students in the Faculty of Arts for their sterling multidisciplinary work that you see before you here this evening. Last but not least, I'm also grateful to our scintillating and newly minted honorary doctorate, Mulina Mhlope, for gracing our event this evening and making it the success that it is. Thank you very much.
One of the things that's so important for us to have is to remind each other of where we come from. Memory needs oiling. Memory needs more fire. Memory needs passion and love. A story repeated is a story remembered. A story repeated is a story remembered. And the stories that are told from generation to generation, doesn't matter what family, doesn't matter what culture, what color, what religion you come from, there are those stories that are repeated. And if your parents and your grandparents are still alive, you know how they go back in history. They remember the very, very old histories. And when they tell those stories, oh, sesivile kaloku tatomkhulu, yo, kunini utsho tatomkhulu? And they repeat and they repeat. And if you lend them your ear, you will hear something new every time they tell. There is a woman I met when I first arrived in Johannesburg. And she wrote a book. I fell onto the lap of the Staff Rider magazine. Let me just say that. I was very lucky. Donor copy yasemakhaya nkosi yami engazinto uyasifikela eGauteng. Xa uyibhari ufika eGauteng, you could, all kinds of horrible things can happen. Abanhlekayo ngizababizela ku-principal's office. When you are a country bumpkin, you arrive in Johannesburg, you know what you like, but you don't know what's out there. You're thinking okapis, you think of being killed, you think of all kinds of things. You're just terrified all the time. I was lucky to fall onto the lap of the Staff Rider magazine generation. And all those writers that I met, Nadine Godima, Professor Eskiam Patlele, Eugene Skiefo, Ingwapele Madingwane, Maisha Maponya, all of those people that I met, one of them was a woman called Rose Zwi. She wrote a book called Another Year in Africa. Many, many people who came from Eastern Europe and ended up in South Africa, they thought they would spend a year or two and then go back home. And then once a year, they would meet in East London and they would sit and have food and sing their Jewish songs and everything. And suddenly they would be quiet. And somebody invariably would say, yes, another year in Africa. And then they hoped that next year they would go back. And then they stayed, a whole year went past, and then they met in East London. They had the food, they sang their songs, and then came that silent moment, that quiet, an angel is going past. And somebody would say, yes, another year in Africa. It's a beautiful book to read. It's one of my favorite books. That's storytelling. It is fantastic when people are able to share what is theirs. Because when you take what is yours, that you know for a fact, and share with the world, it becomes universal. The little bit of what I have perused, I'm seeing universal images here. I'm seeing universal interpretations here. I'm thinking, whew, Kosiam, I'm looking at rivers, I'm looking at mountains, I'm looking at the flora, the fauna, all the different things of our country that make us so proud, that make us who we are. And I'm thinking, I take my hat off to the people who decided to put this book together. Now, when we are gathered in a space like this, we need to call on spirits of those who came before us. Those spirits that we need to call onto the stage. You see how big the stage is, right? It's quite a big stage. So I'd like to call on the spirits of Unsigana Gagapa. I know not everybody goes to the Methodist Church. I know. Ulothixo omkhulu osezulwini hom na unguwena ikakalenyani unguwena inqaba yenya hom na unguwena ihlathilenya hom na Unsigana Gagapa. When they wanted him to convert to this religion that came from over the seas, he said, ndifuna into nesingqisa kwantu. I need somebody that makes me touch down to the earth. That is my mother. And so he composed this song, Unsigana Gagapa, uThixo omkhulu. When we call spirits on a night like this, we need to mention the names of Unsigana Gagapa. I know we don't have his photograph, I know for a fact. that we don't have a photograph of Tsikana Kakapa, but a story repeated is a story remembered. So let's remember those people. When we are talking about Tsikana Kakapa, we talk about Palo, Hinsa, Ngika, Khakhabe, Amakhanda Kancele. Let's call them, call their spirits here. Let's call Krotoa Eva, one of the first prisoners to ever go to Robben Island, a woman. She went to Robben Island. Wapupela khona. She never made the return trip. Masithethe ngomama uCharlotte Maxeke. Let's talk about Reverend Khubusana. Let's talk about sithethe ngabaThembu. Sithethe ngamampondo namampondomise. Masithethe ngamaXhosa. Masithethe ngamabhaca namaXesibe. Masithethe ngawo into zakuthi. Let's talk about into zofaku. Amadzikane kaZulu. Masibizeni uEnoch Sontonga. Enoch Sontonga, I've only seen one photograph of this man. But Enoch Sontonga wrote a song that didn't say God bless South Africa. He said God bless Africa. I hope that every single time we say Nkosi Sikelele Africa, we remember we are citizens of the African continent, not just below the Limpopo. I hope that we remember that. So we're going to have to remind ourselves again and again and again. I'm very allergic to people who go around saying, yes, so-and-so, he's from Africa. Oh, where are you? Where are you when you are telling me about somebody who comes from Cameroon, who comes from Eritrea, who comes from Tanzania? He's from Africa somewhere. What are we going to do? Let's hope research is going to be the place that's going to wake us up and say, Maskhumbuleni, Enoch Sontonga said, God bless Africa. He didn't say, God bless South Africa. I'm calling the son of this land, Rian Pillay, sociologist from the Faculty of the Arts and senior researcher in this project. Kausondele, tata. Yes!
Thank you very much to the program director. And in fact, Sis Trina, as of April this year, was awarded an honorary doctorate through the Faculty of Arts. So in fact, her official title, and particularly in our midst, is that of Dr. Mhlope. So I'm very proud that this day has finally come around. We had agreed in somebody's office that it would be a year-long project, and we would continue on this unknown journey, unbeknown to where exactly it would take us and what exactly is expected of us. However, the three of us agreed. We left her office, and when we walked away and walked down the passage, we kind of looked at each other, and exactly like the Jewish people in East London so many years ago, we also had a silent moment between the three of us. The three of us is Jess, Ongama, and I. And we had that silent moment, and we looked at each other, and we said, yes, okay, we'll set a meeting to talk about what exactly it is that we are expected to do. 18 months or so later, we have the launch of 3 highly impressive volumes. I speak very well. I'm very confident. Even in the way I limp, I'm very confident. But in some of the work that it is I do, I don't like to talk about it. So much so that I had not had the opportunity to sit down and actually reflect in terms of what it is I have to say here. Jess gave me the brief, and as fate and as Dr. Mhlope has alluded, one's ancestors, the rain that we so needed in Port Elizabeth, all of those things come together. And they will now seem as if we had a speechwriters meeting, those of us sitting in the front of the stage, because everything appears now to be sewn together with a very, very fine golden thread. So I have 4 reflections that I want to talk through, and I know when us as academics say, I've got 4 brief things that I want to say, we can kind of keep you here for a very long time. So the venue is too small. We normally teach in bigger venues, so we'll keep it a little shorter. The first part of my reflection is that I want to begin by saying that people will show you exactly who they are. So through this project and through the journey, people will show their distrust. They will show their trust. They will show their Ubuntu, and they've certainly shown their humanity. And they do this in how they show up, how they respond to your questions, but more importantly, how they approve or disapprove of you being in their space. So the research team also showed me and us whom exactly they are. Through the many processes, they've allowed people to thrive, some people to stagnate, and some people to really soar through this research endeavor over the last year and a half. Both the pain and the joys, making with a strong team, strengthened me as a researcher and my resolve as a leader. Tonight, the back row looks very well put together, which they are. But there have been moments in the 18 months where I wanted to strangle, castrate, and pluck some people's hairs singularly. But that particular journey has made my experience as a human being, this is how big it's been, my experience as a human being, that much richer. The second point, all people have a story. So within the Eastern Cape, there might be 3 official languages, isiXhosa, Afrikaans, and English. But the reality of translanguaging means that we needed to be comfortable in listening to the participants across the travels in what we refer to as a Chinese way. 2 very, very big ears, wide, excited, eager eyes, an open mind, and an open heart to hear the intention and, more importantly, the soul of the people. Together with the diversity in the teams, we were able to get by with piecing together the rich, sweet, and deeply enriching stories of the many peoples. As much as you introduce yourself to groups of participants and people across the province, they tell you their story based on what need they have to fulfill. So in my group, I looked like the most important of the people. So these stories are often told to me. They are often cried to me, laughed with me, and even flirted with me. So, in as much as this is a research endeavor, it's also a teaching and learning space. So it is the responsibility of us leading the project to ensure that more junior researchers go into spaces and take the lead. Truth be told, you also get tired of taking the lead. So we go into certain spaces and I pick one. They didn't know this, tonight they know it. So I gave you each a number, and in this town it's number 2. The next town will be number 3. So you allow for each junior researcher, research intern, whatever their title is, to go in and begin the conversation. So you listen, I try to walk around, mostly trying to find chocolate in the places. That's my barometer of a place. And then the minute I arrive, the person telling the story stops telling the story to the researcher in front of them and moves to me. So for me, it indicates that people look for somebody who can listen to them in a way that will not only respect, but also for them to be able to tell their story in a much more dignified and a much more respectful way, as in essence, to get what it is they want. So the duration of the story, the space of the story, the presence of the storyteller, and the integrity and heart of the listener sets the scene for a story to be told. A humble and respectful approach to the subject as a human first will always get you the intangible essence of the story. The facts are easily attainable. Everyone has a social media presence, or at least a website. But the backstory, the truth, and the hopes lost and memories that are now jaded and faded is ultimately what you want. All people want to tell their story. It is up to us, bestowed with the ethical privilege to tell the story with care and conviction. Having Dr. Trina Mhlophe here to hold the evening together is also significant. To have one of the world's greatest storytellers and custodian of oral histories and heritage is more than 20 boons it's worth. And where am I now? My third point. All spaces have a story. So the length and breadth of the Eastern Cape, in many voices and colors and sounds, the gold, green, red, brown, ochred textured tones in itself tell a story of its own. So forget France, Italy, and Spain. Swap it for Tsitsikamma, the Karoo, and the hole in the wall. The quiet energy leaves you feeling romantic and willful. Many people on the strip fell in love and out of love. The high energy of the bustling towns of Iluso and Dombolo invite you to have more. Iluso and Dombolo. Tripe. Iluso and Dombolo is steamed bread, dumplings. Okay, so I've passed. The N9, the N10, and the N11 roads in the Karoo had mountains and hills that spoke of love, excitement, and other contemplative emotions. Travel makes you reflect on the self located in a context, and then a question of that context. You could journey through the Eastern Cape and feel the sense of richness that this place beckons for people to discover her, to celebrate her, to critique her, and if need be, rebuild and reteach her story. The fourth and final point. Own our spaces and own our story. How we tell, sell, or share our heritage is ultimately up to us. Tonight, which is the culmination of 18 months of work by this team, begs for publics to take the practice of preserving heritage with care. But before care, to value the how and what we do as heritage. My closing statement to ponder for all of us is something I've used before. We are the ones we have been waiting for. So I want to read it again. We are the ones we are waiting for. So let us begin to bring back pride and Ubuntu through showcasing who we all are. Heritage is alive and calling your name, as he too is calling somebody on the phone. Thank you very much.
Ifikile kwedini ngo? Iphile kwedini? Iphi kwedini? Yehova. There's something called respect. Inhlonipho. Doesn't matter how good looking, how rich, how tall, how short, how wise you think you are. If you don't have respect, something is missing. Just saying. I'm going to call the next speaker now, who's going to give us more of this wealth that they collected on the journey. I love traveling. I did not look for traveling, it found me at a very young age, traveling with my grandmother, then traveling across Umzimkulu, ending up at Mount Frere, KwaBhaca. I didn't want to be there. I hated the mountains. The village where my mother was from, kuthiwa kwaGudlintaba. And then kukhona iNkontyolweni apho endele khona umama. And I'm born between two families, two marriages. I'm a love child. I end up in Kontyolweni, in this village. There are 3 mountains on either side. And then there's the spring where the beginning of Umchazi River starts. And my mother did not drink water from last night. She drank water from this morning, every morning. So we went to get water from that beautiful. The taste of the water, you can't put in a book. You can't put in a book the taste of that water. Beautiful. And that Umchazi River snaked its way all the way past Umchazi, it's called, where we walked all day long, well, for an hour. The whole hour got to the school, and in winter, barefooted, we walked to school. And Kabaka, the frost that we walked on barefooted, but we had to go to school. We had been to the river to fetch water for Mama. We made a tea and breakfast and everything. We washed ourselves. We got prepared. You've got to be clean. Ziyakanywa inwele. Akho consciousness clever. Ziyakanywa inwele esikolweni. So you have to be presentable, no matter how tired you think you are. Now, when it's very, very cold, we took a stone, put it in the fire. And then that stone, you wipe it dry. You put it in your hands like this and hold it as you walk all the way to school, so that when you arrive at school, your hands, your fingers can still write. They're not frozen. And you sit down. You make it before 8 o'clock, by the way, because the principal uGaju akahleki namageza angalazi ixesha. So we put our stones in a safe place, and the day started. I would like to call onto the stage now Ongama Mtinka. Andazi ba uzawuthi utata ubani xa uzithutha tata khawundonwabise nje wena xa ufika apho undonwabise nje just uba mnandi nje bantwana abadala yaqona. Political scientists from the Faculty of the Arts and senior researcher of this project, Bhuti Ongama, khawusondele khawusondonwabise mana khawusithuthe nje khawusithuthe tata.
I believe in a light that shines and will never die. Oh, I believe the fire burns, will stay alive. They will talk about us like they talked about the kings before us. They will talk about us. I know our dreams want whatever today. I had to keep looking at the back when I sing that song, because by my dictates, it ended up being our theme song when we were traveling. It was a song that was introduced to me by young men Lucanyo and Sipogazi. It's a rap song. So we had to find a middle ground between my gospel music and their, you know, this rap music that we no longer, I can't even recognize. But it was really great. It's a song that talks a lot about what we wanted to do. We wanted to do something that future generations will look back and talk about us like they talked about the kings before us. I want to thank the program director, Umama Ugcina Mhlophe, and I want to say it's great to have an opportunity to thank you for telling the story of Hlakanyane. When I was young and over Umhlobo Wenene, she told the story of this baby that was born, And when the parents brought breast milk and the cereals, baby foods, this kid burst out and said, "Isn't there meat that has been cooked here? Isn't there samp and beans? Why am I eating this?" So I really enjoyed that story of Hlakanyani, and I've gone on to tell it to my kids also. Yes, Umazalwe Thetha, the kid born speaking. I also want to extend appreciation to the university leadership, Prof. Leach, who are represented here, and Prof. Boswell, for having made it into the team that did this great work. I'm going to spend probably about 3 to 5 minutes. If I go over, please raise your hand so I can sit down. Africans like talking, so I can talk the whole hour. Mama, you wanted to know my clan name, Gushatilo, and I don't get offended when I get called Baboon, because that's my clan name. Gumfene, Ulisa, Uchamba, Sumsutu, Hlangomveweni. So that's me. So at the end of I'm titling what I want to share today as Ikwelo Lityala. To hear the battle cry and not respond makes one guilty of treason. To hear the battle cry and not respond makes one guilty of treason. That's what Ikwelo Lityala means. So I think the first thing I want to say about this research project is my getting introduced through Prof. Boswell and Jessica, who are anthropologists, to the research tool of autoethnography. The research tool that allows you as a person to ingratiate yourself as part of the story. So you are not telling the story as being out there, but it allows you to express who you are as you tell the story. If you read this book, you will find that there's a lot of references to the I and the personal memories that are ingratiated with what ought to have been a generic story of the Eastern Cape. So it was liberating to find a research tool like that. Because all of a sudden, things which I got exposed to in my village as a child suddenly found space within what should be top-class academic writing, such as, for example, the traditional ceremony that was done back home, which I later doubted, but it's still an experience which I value, of how when one of my uncles drowned at Hamburg, we brought cattle by the beach, having been directed by Isangoma to do so, and performed some rituals by the beach, and believing that our uncle had been utwetjulwad, that's English for you, taken by the ancestors, and it was going to be trained and come back as a great traditional healer. I thought that was in my distant memory somewhere and had no relevance whatsoever to who I had grown to be as a professional and academic. But autoethnography allowed me to bring this seemingly crazy story about what we had done back home into the mainstream, and it's printed among these today. Also, there's a saying that you will find in page 3 of volume 1 that used to be said by the elders back home, that isisu somahambi asingakanani. That is, the stomach of a traveler is immeasurable. That's a literal translation. What it meant is that the Xhosas didn't have separated institutions such that, for example, you would have a hotel for travelers and some space, private space for those who are residents. If a traveler passed by, they needed to be accommodated in the main house. And so, isisu somhambi asingakanani is an instruction to those who are hosting the traveler to dish up very generously. Because the traveler may not have eaten for days because the journeys were long. And then the last one says, Unyawal Nampumlo, also on that page 3. Unyawal Nampumlo. The literal translation says, the feet have no nose. So they can't smell where they are going to end up one day. So one day, I may be a traveler in an area, and those that are hosts and residents there better be generous to me, because one day they may just end up somewhere where I am the resident and they are the travelers. So all of these principles, in my view, they are instructive. It was very good to find space to be able to express them. Suddenly, who we are matters in writing stories about travel, in writing about our heritage. So that's, I'm grateful for having found autoethnography. Also, why they will talk about us. Because I believe as a group of researchers and interns, we did something very unique. We managed to go through the very painful, traumatic, complex history of ourselves in the Eastern Cape. The stories that are humiliating of dispossession, but as Prof. Leach said, the stories of the resilience of the human spirit that triumphs over adversity. And the key is that we remember Hendrik Verwoerd as we do Beers no Deer. Complex. Both of them are white. Both of them have got different contribution to our history. We remember J.B. Marx as we do D.F. Malan. We remember Joe Slovo, Ruth First, as we do J.G. Strado. All of these are part of the painful yet inspirational history of us as a people. And it's a history that we have dared not tell in a coherent way as we attempt to do in this volume. In this volume, we give recognition to the monument to great men that conquered the Xhosa as we do to the liberation fighters. It's our history, it's our heritage. If I can talk about my own complexity, I mean, I was saying what my clan name was. But back home, whenever we did traditional ceremonies, there's this one old timer who would always say, we are just eating the meat because these people are not Xhosa. And they would say a very derogative true word. These people are Amaqeya, colored. The reason why they said so is because my granddad was a love child, Mamuci Namhlopi. And his father was German. I'm the darker complexion in my family, but his father was German. So as emotional as I get about our history, I have a complex identity of a very white heritage as I do a very black heritage. So this is us. We have done something here which is attempting to tell a united history of South Africa. There's a saying in East Africa that until the lions have their own historians, all tales about the hunt will glorify the hunter. And we think that as descendants of the conquerors and the conquered, complexly so, because we don't fall in clear paths, okay? We are attempting to tell that is the story of us. This is the story of us that you should accept. And it's the story of the human race. And lastly, from my side, I think the great thing about these trips that we took was the true value of decoloniality. And when I say decoloniality, perhaps slightly different from my Fees Must Fall counterparts, as counter-revolutionary as they may want to call me, I say decoloniality not from the perspective of destroying whiteness, if you like, but creating space for both whiteness and blackness to emerge in a way whose outcome is greater than its constitutive parts. So here we are, here is our history. As Victor Hugo once said, and we live it in a time, before I get there, we live in a time when, because of the historic grievances that are there, politicians who have failed to translate democracy into changed lives, colluding with the so-called white monopoly capital, which exists, okay? They have failed together, both business and government, even though the former would like to blame the latter, to create a humane space in which we can all coexist. And now they are busy manufacturing our grievances for their own political agendas in ways that sow seeds of division for the future, such that our children must now watch out that those who have been alienated in this process of dehumanizing redress may feel scared that in future those who have been dehumanized or alienated in this process will again rise up. So I'm saying there's a calling on our generation to embrace who we are, complex as we are, but do so in a way, do his justice in a way that does not sow seeds of future division. And Victor Hugo once said this: an invasion of armies can be resisted, but not an idea whose time has come. Ikhwelo lityala.
Hey. Unendlebe nje unetyala. Siyagqitha. Siyagqitha ngizothetha kwanto. I'd like to call Miss Jessica Thornton, anthropologist from the Faculty of the Arts and project manager in the project, please. Let's welcome her. Akasiphakele kancinci. Jessica. Siyabulela. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Mhlophe, and thank you to everybody that's attended today. I feel quite honored to be here on this day, on the 19th, 19th of September 2018. Over the past year, the Moments in Time project has seen a team of travelers immerse themselves in a number of areas of the Eastern Cape. Their experiences have left us intrigued, energized, and enriched by the engagements that have occurred, both planned and unplanned. These books are an offering of all the interest and energy this project has generated, of the new discoveries that characterize the beautiful Eastern Cape. Our team of social scientists, geographers, and artists allow for varying interpretations of the spaces and experiences that go with them. On this long adventure, our footsteps cross paths with many individuals. Thank you to all of those we've met along the way who warmly welcomed us into their homes, for showing us their communities, their families, their heritage. Our greatest gratitude goes to those who made this possible, for allowing us the opportunity to take this project as far as it is now. To the National Lotteries Commissions and the Nelson Mandela University, thank you for everything that you have done, for the funding and the processes thus far. If you may help me please, Andiswa. To Dr. Mhlophe, thank you so much for helping us tonight, being our host of the night. To Professor Leach, thank you for opening the ceremony and welcoming the guests. To Professor Boswell, for your time and commitment on this project. To Ryan Pillay, thank you for being my rock. And to Ngami Ntiko, thank you for all your hard work and commitment on the project. And if my interns can please stand up one at a time as I call out their names. To Lekhanyo Kepe, Sibakazi Lusana, Luke Hagerman, who I forgot to put on the program, and I apologize for that. To Rebecca Hayter, Pila Dianti, Gracie Rasmus, Andiswa Nzenze. Thank you. And in his absence, Carl Peterson. We also have two members sitting with us that assisted along the way, Olweti Munganyama and Christian Scallon. Thank you for your contribution and commitment on this project. Without you, the project would not have been possible. Thank you. I have further thank yous to make to Simakela Sam, who helped us along this way in the beginning, and to Prof's new PA, Nsidisa Mtise, to Nicole Collier Naidu, our editor, to the Athenaeum team, to Bacani Printers, to Petronella Catering, CB Entertainment, Colin Walls Framing, Party Design Eastern Cape, Today Brand Studio, Kosi Mutsepe, Ari Vibes Arts, Grant Allison Jazz Band, the University Shop, and family and friends, those with us in both spirit and body. Through heritage, people are able to learn about culture, history, and art. Through this research project, we have learned about rich and diverse traditions and customs to enable more people to gain access to such diversity. We need to engage them in making connections with the past and that which has occurred and holds significance to people. The exercise of partaking in learning about heritage itself enables communities to connect. The team wishes to place these books before you as a gift on your journey of discovery and deepening engagement with spaces and places old and new. May the journeys of heritage and uncovering new thought from the old springboard that which becomes possible in society for the betterment of all. With this, the books have been officially launched and the exhibition now opened. Thank you.
Jacob, let's try a song in English this time. What about English now? We try that. Let me tell you where the song comes from first before I sing it. I don't know if you remember during the Truth and Reconciliation testimonies, the women were either the mother of, or the sister of, or the wife of, or the grandmother of, the daughter of, or the cousin of. I don't know if you remember that. Went on and on and on. And at some point, there was complaining around the country. And then they started the testimonies of the women. And they were held at Constitution Hill. And somebody called out for me, and they asked me to come and facilitate this process. And I went to Constitution Hill, especially at number 4, because that's where we used to get free accommodation, whether we wanted it to or not. According, this apartheid government was generous sometimes. So that's where it happened. And on that day, apart from listening to the people who asked for the wedding dancer, the poem I wrote for my mother, but also I wrote a song that I sang for the first time on that day, and I sang it every single day, and it has grown. It has been in different places. It is now part of my CD, Hope Song. And here we go. Where do they come from? Tell me, where do they come from? Tales so brave, tales so sad. Some are so funny, so crazy, unbelievable, hi, bo. They come from the bones of memory. Watch my eyes, hear my voice. I tell you true, these tales are from the bones of memory. These tales are from the bones of memory. of memory, of memory, of memory, of memory, from the bones 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 of memory. Apha madoda wavakali. Hos, hos. Memory from the bones of memory, 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 from the bones. Hoya! 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 These books are launched.